Man, it's crazy to think that after all the time I spent putting in work on the field, today could really be my last time picking up a football. Since a kid, my only dream was to make it to the NFL, and depending on how today goes, that dream could actually come true. There's about 12 scouts from different NFL teams here at my pro day to watch me perform. Personally, I feel like I should have been invited to the combine, but things just didn't work out in my favor. It's all good though, I'm still gonna do my thing. I'm feeling confident, and I know the only thing I have to do is be myself, and everything else will be just fine. I got a few receivers to come out and catch some balls for me, and I think we may even do a bit of 7-on-7 with the DBs. But look, I'm about to go ahead and get warmed up. While I do that, let me show y'all what all went into making the decision for me to come back and play my senior year. Instead of going back home to Florida at the end of last season, I decided to stay on campus and enroll in my last few classes I needed to graduate. Now, I wasn't sure if I'd be back for my senior year, but I knew for damn sure I was leaving with my degree. But look, I helped lead our team to a fantastic 10-2 season my junior year. We just barely missed the playoffs. Instead, we be in Arlington taking on the Tennessee Volunteers in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Although it wasn't the most prominent bowl game, the fans still came out and packed the arena, and both teams played their heart out. We go on to lose to the Volunteers, but I still put on a hell of a performance, throwing damn near 300 yards. After the Cheez-It Bowl was over, I came back here to campus at Iowa and really just hid out of my dorm for like a week straight. Everybody was hitting me up wanting to know what my next move was going to be, but the problem was I didn't even know. Of course, I got online and read all types of articles from draft analysts and so-called experts, but honestly, that only complicated things even more. Some were saying I'd go undrafted and others were saying the 5th or 6th round. I needed some type of clarity and honestly some guidance, so I hollered at one of the staff members here on campus that I have a lot of respect for. It was good to hear things from a different perspective. He basically told me straight up that I had a reputation for being a problem in the locker room and also being a bad teammate. He told me another successful year in college could easily change that narrative, no problem. I sat there and listened to everything he had to say, and even though it was quite hard to hear, I knew he was absolutely right. Besides, I knew I'd make more money this year with my NIL deals than I would being a 6th or 7th round draft pick. I went home that same evening and thought about it a bit. Once I made my final decision, I jumped on Twitter and let the world know that I'd be returning to Iowa for my senior season. The biggest knock that the draft analysts seemed to have about my game was my passing mechanics and my decision making, so I worked all offseason to sharpen up my throwing form. I swear I must have threw over 10,000 passes. Also, I basically lived in the film room. If I wasn't in my dorm, I was in there studying different defensive concepts. I really put in work all summer, so going into my senior year, I was more than ready to perform. Alright, so look, we're here at the most important part of my pro day, and that is the passing portion. I've already done all my other drills. Now, I didn't do the 40-yard dash just because I didn't think it was really necessary, but everything else is done. Now we're here at the money maker for the QB position. Now we're gonna do a little bit of 7-on-7. Let me read these instructions. Welcome to your pro day. Instructions: without leaving the pocket, complete as many passes as possible. Touchdowns will raise your draft profile. That's pretty simple, right? Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright bro, so it looks like that we get 7 plays to try to score 7 touchdowns. I'm gonna do my best to dot these boys up. Now these are my teammates, they out here helping me out, but they definitely not taking it easy on me. Okay, get up. Okay, let's go, baby. That's what I need, baby. 2 for 2, man. Make these plays, let's go. Okay, so it actually looks like the ball is moving back further, so I guess it's from different positions on the field. Dot my boy up. Hey man, I'm dropping dimes, man. There we go, there we go. Okay, we going the opposite direction. Let me see what we got. There he is. There he is. Catch that for me. Yes, Sirski. That's exactly what we needed. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to just hit the check down right here. Yeah, I'm going to just hit the check down. Let me see. Let me see. Good route. Good route. Let's go, baby. All right, we got one more, man. We got to go 6 for 7 at least. 6 for 7. Can we do it? Yes, Sirski, man. Count me in, baby. I think we had an excellent pro day, man. So now that all the hard work is done, I can finally relax. My pro day went pretty well. I mean, I could have did a little bit better on the interview portion, but I can't lie, I was a little bit nervous. Anyways, I'm headed back home to my parents' crib in Florida. I think I'll probably just chill there until draft night. But look, I got about a 2-hour flight ahead of me, so I figured now would be a good time to show you what all took place my senior year. The first game of my senior season started off with a bang. We were at home versus our in-state rivals, the Iowa State Cyclones. On literally our first offensive play, I took an option right up the center of the field for a 72-yard touchdown. Our sold-out home crowd went crazy. Just like I told y'all last season, these rivalry games will be some of the best football you'll ever see. They're always competitive and both teams are always willing to lay it all out on the line. With only about 3 seconds left in the first quarter, I would make a very costly mistake. Not only did I eye my receiver all the way down the field, but I completely ignored my other check down options. I mean, I literally had 3 other receivers wide open, but instead I threw up a 50-50 ball that got intercepted by the defense. It's all good though, totally my fault, and I accepted full accountability. I wish I was able to say I learned from my mistake, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, as I came out on the very next drive and threw another interception. I wasn't playing like myself, and I knew exactly why. I had fully bought into the Iowa Hawkeye spirit, and it was rivalry week, so I was acting unusual. I mean, I was super turned up, but 2 back-to-back interceptions in the first half, yeah, that calmed me down really quick. Iowa State took full advantage of those turnovers and put points on the board each time. We got the ball first coming out of halftime, and coach stressed how important it was that we score. He said a touchdown on this drive could completely swing the momentum back into our favor, so I knew I had to get us into the end zone. Dropping back on 1st and 10, I was scanning the field and I would find my new target, freshman Alex Mota, with about 2 steps on the defense. I threw an absolute dick, hitting him in the chest as he ran into the end zone. This would be the first touchdown of his young college career. Tie game at the beginning of the 4th quarter. The ball was in our hands with a chance to mount a drive to take the lead. Listen, I have no idea what coverage the defense was in, but it seemed like every single one of my receivers was being double covered downfield, so I had no choice but to scramble. I was able to pick up quite a few yards on this drive using my legs, and it seemed like we were marching our way to the end zone. But on 3rd and 3, the Cyclone defense sniffed out the option play and stopped me just short of the first down. With the game being so close, we had no choice but to settle for the field goal to go up by 3 points. Several of the key pieces to our defense last year came back this year, and they picked up right where they left off. They were able to force a 3 and out and put the ball back into our hands. We only needed to pick up 1 first down to win the game, and we could have just watched the clock run out. But nah, this was our in-state rival, and coach wanted to snap their neck. So on 3rd and 3, I was able to connect with my receiver in the end zone for a touchdown, officially sealing the deal. We went on to take a 10-point victory over the Cyclones, ensuring that Sky High Trophy would be staying at home with us. Officially ranked the number 17th team in the nation, we were back at home hosting the Troy Trojans for our 2nd game of the season. Still riding off the high from our victory over Iowa State, I honestly think you could have put any team in front of us and we would have made easy work of them. Our first drive down the field, we came up with a huge defensive pass interference penalty. Well, that resulted in excellent field position, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to take advantage because I went down with the injury. Although I was in tremendous pain, the injury turned out not to be serious at all, as I pretty much just got the wind knocked out of me. I would be out of the game until the start of the 2nd quarter. I knew going down with that injury would be motivation for the Trojan defense to try to hurt me even worse next time, so I wanted to send a message that I wasn't no hoe. I started playing extremely aggressive, and that energy seemed to rub off on the rest of the team. We pushed them boys all the way up the field to right outside the red zone. That's when I would strike with the game's first touchdown to my sophomore halfback Patterson. We found out the hard way last season after I lost to Rutgers that you can't let teams hang around and you can't overlook any opponents. Well, I had to remind the guys on the sideline to stay locked in. I knew if we were able to go out and get another score before halftime, it would be a good chance that we could run away with the game. With only 10 seconds left in the first half, I connected with who was quickly becoming my favorite target, Alex Mota, for a touchdown. Although he was just a freshman, he seemed to be picking up our offense very well. 3rd quarter, with a 10-point lead, it started to feel like we were running away with the game. Our defense was playing just as strong as they did in the first half with no signs of letting up. I knew if we were able to get into the end zone at least one more time, it would probably be an early night for me, and honestly, that didn't sound too bad. I peeped the Trojans were sending an all-out blitz, so at the line, I called an audible for my guy Nico to run a fly route, and the ball met him in the end zone for a touchdown. Just like I thought, that touchdown would be the last play of the game for me as we take a 10-point victory over the Trojans, moving on with the 2-0 record. Our first road game of the season came against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Now, they're also our rivals, so we came into this game on 10, ready for a shootout. Well, literally the first play of the game resulted in a 70-yard touchdown by my guy KJ. As we were leaving the hotel headed to the stadium, KJ told everybody he was going to make a huge impact today. Well, bro stood on business. After our 2 wins to start the season, we moved up 1 spot to the 16th ranked team in the nation. The buzz surrounding my name was pretty quiet. It really started to build towards the end of last season, but it died down over the summer. But I was okay with that because I knew there was only a matter of time until I started to pop back up in those conversations. But look, the game started to get heated and tensions between the 2 teams started to flare. That was expected, and honestly, I was looking forward to it. I feel like I play my best when it matters the most. 3rd and 5 with all my receivers covered upfield, I scrambled off to the right-hand side and found nothing but daylight. Now, I was going to do a little celebration, but the defense was closing in faster than I thought. Nonetheless, we jump out with a 7-point lead to start the 2nd quarter. Minnesota dog walked our defense up the field and scored with ease. I'll be honest, at that point, I started to get a little bit concerned and honestly a bit nervous. I felt like it would be nothing that we can do to stop them from getting big plays, but I still had faith in my guys. Coach always tells us to just do our job and let him worry about the rest, so that's what I did when I got back on the field. Our offense was able to move the ball into the red zone, and I scrambled for what should have been a touchdown, but the refs called it short. No worries though, KJ was able to run the ball in untouched on the very next play, putting us right back up on the scoreboard. Finally, our defense was able to get a stop. Minnesota went for it on 4th and 1, but our defense stood strong. We take over possession with our backs against the wall and a mile away from our end zone. I was able to break free out of the pocket and find absolutely nobody on the left-hand side of the field. With one man to beat, I juked him out of his shoes, but I would get brought down in the process. This was the moment we were looking for. With that run, the momentum has swung in our favor, but we needed to capitalize. Once again, we found ourselves just short of the touchdown right outside the end zone, and we'd hand the ball off to KJ and he was able to take it in for 6, putting us back on the scoreboard yet again. Up 2 touchdowns with just over 5 minutes left, yours truly put the final nail in the coffin with a huge run up the sideline for a touchdown. We not only knocked off our rivals on the road, but we did it in a dominant fashion, staying undefeated and moving on with the 3-0 record. In what could quite possibly be the biggest game of our season, we'd be on the road taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think I speak for everybody when I say we were extremely excited for this game. Not only did our program have a little bit of motion, but the Buckeyes were the number 4 ranked team in the nation. So that meant all eyes were going to be on this game. If there was ever a time to step up to the plate and perform, this was it. The game started off as expected. The Buckeyes scored early, and we came back with a touchdown of our own. Now, we seemed to be moving the ball pretty easily against their defense early on, but I quickly realized that I couldn't hold on to the ball very long because our O-line was a bit overmatched. Our second drive down the field resulted in a 3-and-out because I took a huge sack after only standing in the pocket for like 4 seconds. We get the ball to start the third quarter, only trailing by 4 points. Now, this was the perfect opportunity to go down and take the lead. I'd take an option keeper up the field for like 20 yards, and then I'd find my wideout through a small gap in the defense, but unfortunately he dropped the ball. Now that play would have been key because it would have given us a first down, because on the following play, I take another huge sack and we go 3-and-out yet again. The Buckeyes would take over possession and score, increasing their lead to 11 points. Now, we were down, but certainly not out. I knew if we had any chance to come back and get a victory, we needed to score on this drive. I activated my Jamarcus Russell mode and started slinging the ball downfield. When the Buckeyes dropped back into coverage, I stepped up and scrambled out of the pocket, getting us all the way down to right outside the goal line. Then I connected with KJ on a screen pass that he took in for a touchdown, shaving 7 points off their lead. Unfortunately though, our efforts weren't enough to win the game. Ohio State scored again, and with only 50 seconds left in the game, it'd be too little too late. We'd suffer our first loss of the season. Coming off our first loss of the season, the team was more focused and dangerous than ever. Sometimes it just takes realizing that you're not untouchable for you to tighten up and stop making those small repeated mistakes. I know I mentioned before that when a team loses a game early on in the season, it can be somewhat of a death blow, but that wasn't the case for us. Our energy was high and we still had a lot to play for. That loss knocked us down to the 19th ranked team, so just 2 spots, but we were still in the top 20 and we still had a lot of games left. Our next game would be at home versus the Washington Huskies. This game started off strange as we get a safety at the end of the first half. Coming out in the second half, we'd go 3-and-out on our first drive because I overthrew 2 of my receivers. I don't know, we were a bit out of sync, but we definitely needed to lock back in. The Huskies had jumped out to a 9-point lead and all the momentum was on their side. We were in urgent need of a touchdown or a miracle, and luckily we got both. Stepping up in the pocket, I had my guy Alex wide open with at least 30 yards of open space ahead of him, but instead I launched a prayer into the end zone, which resulted in a pass interference against the defense. This is just the miracle we were looking for. From the 1-yard line on the option keeper, I thrusted my way into the end zone for a touchdown. Down 17-25 with 2 minutes left, it wasn't looking good. We needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Remember at the start of this game I mentioned those small repeated mistakes? Well, I hadn't quite learned my lesson as I picked up 2 back-to-back penalties for illegal forward passes, one of which was for a damn touchdown. I couldn't believe myself, but I didn't have time to pout because we still had a game to win. 3rd and 20, desperately needing a first down, I link up with my safety valve Alex, picking up the first down. And then on the very next play, I go back to Alex again with the absolute laser right inside the end zone, tying the game at 25 with about a minute and a half left. We had successfully mounted a comeback, but now we were needing a victory. With about 40 seconds left in regulation, we had to go 60 yards up the field, but in just 2 pass completions, I was able to put us right outside of field goal range, and then I picked up an extra 5 yards on the option keeper. Our kicker sent the game winner straight down the upright, securing the victory over the Grizzlies and putting us back into the win column. Our first snow game of the season came on the road in East Lansing versus the Michigan State Spartans. Now, I know I mentioned before just how much I hate the freezing temperatures, the ice, and the snow, but if I'm being honest, man, I seem to have my best games when the weather is like this. At this point in the season, the Spartans were sitting right above us as the 17th ranked team in the nation, so a win here on the road could do big things for our team. Our first drive down the field couldn't have gone any better. With the weather being so bad, we had to rely on our run game, and my boy KJ didn't miss a beat. He put the team on his back and walked us up the field into the end zone. Jumping ahead to the second quarter, the Spartans had a 7-point lead, and all the momentum was starting to shift in their favor. Well, that's when I connected with my guy Seth on the go route for a 60-yard touchdown, tying the game all even at 14. The third quarter came and the game was still extremely close. We had a 3-point lead and excellent field position with the great shot at increasing the lead. I had my receiver wide open across the middle of the field, but I put way too much touch on the ball and the defense ended up knocking it down. So we just ended up settling for a field goal. Fourth quarter with just over 2 minutes left in the game, it was still way too close for comfort. We needed at least another touchdown to officially pull away with the victory. I did my part scrambling for a first down on 3rd and 6, and then we put the ball into KJ's hands and he go almost completely untouched for a touchdown. He single-handedly carried us all game, so it was only right he put the final touches on our victory. Back at home and out of the snow, we be hosting Northwestern. Now, I'll be real, we weren't taking this team very seriously. They weren't having the best season and they didn't have much to play for. Now, of course, we knew they were still dangerous, but it was kind of hard to get up for these guys. Although we weren't the most excited about playing the Wildcats, we still went out there and handled our business. Now, I can tell you right now that this game wasn't close whatsoever. We jumped out to a very early lead and never looked back. KJ was having the same dominant performance that we had grown accustomed to, and of course, I went out there and did my thing. We were really firing on all cylinders, and before you knew it, the score was 14-0 and the Wildcats had no answer. At this point of the season, we were 5-1, ranked inside the top 25 teams in the nation with no signs of looking back. I had shown on several different occasions my ability to not only protect the lead, but also fight back from behind to win games. My passing touchdowns were high and my interceptions were low. I also developed into a true dual threat quarterback, meaning I could hurt you both on the ground or through the air, but for some reason there still seemed to be very little interest surrounding my name. Now, I was hearing through the grapevine that it was due to my attitude, but honestly, I ain't even care. I knew if I kept playing like this and we kept winning, the scouts would have no choice but to pay attention. Back at home, the snow had finally found its way to Iowa, and we be hosting our rivals, the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, we beat this team last year in our rivalry showdown, so I knew they'd be back seeking revenge. They came out extremely aggressive and possessed the ball for the majority of the first quarter. They jumped out to an early 7-point lead, and it was clear they were here to play. On 2nd and 3, with all my receivers covered downfield, I scrambled outside of the pocket, and I had like 30 yards of daylight in front of me. With good up the field blocking, I ran into the end zone completely untouched, tying the game at 7 going into the second quarter. With that tie didn't last very long as the Badgers immediately scored against our defense, regaining the lead. We didn't panic because this was nothing new. We came into this game expecting for it to be a shootout, and well, that's exactly what it was shaping up to be. 1st and 17, I was being chased down by the defenders, but I made a huge connection to my receiver downfield. As you can see, the chemistry between us was at an all-time high. On the very next play, 1st and goal, I keep the ball on the option and run into the end zone, tying the game up before halftime. Coming out in the second half, we take possession first, and I just knew if we were able to go down and score on our first drive, all the pressure would be on the Badgers to try to answer. Now, I gotta be honest, due to the weather, I was a little bit hesitant to try to throw the ball downfield. Even when I'd have an open receiver, I'd look him off and instead try to make a play with my feet. Well, that hesitation led to me taking a sack on 3rd and goal. I didn't even really let the play develop before trying to escape the pocket. We take the field goal and go up by 3 points. But as expected, Wisconsin tied the game at 17-all and gave us the ball right back to start the fourth quarter. 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter with the ball on the 25-yard line. Dropping back in the pocket, I'd hit my guy Nico on the comeback route, moving us up to the 7th-yard line. Then on 1st and goal, I completely juked the corner out of his shoes and run in for a touchdown, taking a 7-point lead with just over a minute left in regulation. Our defense stood strong and forced the Badgers to turn over the ball, officially sealing the deal and giving us the victory at home, knocking off yet another rival this season. We were on the road again in beautiful Southern California, taking on the UCLA Bruins. Now, we had moved up to the 12th ranked team in the country, and the buzz surrounding our program was at an all-time high. If I'm being honest, I think the buzz was even higher than it was before our first loss, but I don't know. We started off this game a bit shaky. Our first drive was a 3-and-out, and the Bruins were able to capitalize, going up by 7 on the scoreboard. Now, we needed to have a good performance because a win here could mean us cracking back into the top 10 teams in the nation. But look, other than that first drive, we seemed to be firing on all cylinders, moving the ball up the field with ease. Then we were finally able to crack the scoreboard with the touchdown as I found my fullback, of all people, wide open in the end zone. The Bruins answered right back with the touchdown of their own, and it looked like yet again we were in for another back and forth game. But suddenly there was a shift. On our next drive, we started off really well, but those small repeated mistakes I keep mentioning would come back to bite us. We picked up a holding call on the first down, and well, that first down quickly turned into a long 3rd and 17, which then turned into a 3 and out, giving possession right back to the dangerous UCLA offense. Man, it was only downhill from there. The Bruins jumped out to an 18-point lead, and on our next possession, I throw an interception, giving them excellent field position, making it easy for them to score again. Look, we definitely didn't just roll over. I mean, we did what we could and tried our best to fight our way back into the game. I put together a string of completions to move the ball up the field. We started to have great success on the ground and through the air. A few big plays got us down right outside the end zone when I connect with my receiver over the top of the defense for 6. But in the end, it would be way too little, way too late. The Bruins handed us our second loss of the season, sending us packing with a 12-point victory at home. The next game, we'd be on the road taking on a very unfamiliar opponent, the Maryland Terrapins. Now, obviously, we were coming off our second loss of the season, so that pretty much meant our chances of playing for a national championship were gone. But the conference championship was still at stake, so we still had a lot to play for. This game would start off rather unique as Maryland jumped out to a 14-0 lead and we weren't able to score at all during the first quarter. Coming out in the second quarter though, it was a different story. We finally got our wheels moving upfield and worked the ball down to the 9-yard line where I would connect with my guy Alex for the first touchdown of the game. Our defense stopped the Terrapins in their tracks, putting the ball into our hands. Standing tall in the pocket, I threw an absolute laser to my boy KJ, who was lined up as a slot receiver. With just under 30 seconds left in the first half, I wanted to make sure we were able to tie the game before halftime. Feeling the pressure of the Maryland defense, I was able to scramble out of the pocket and beat the DN upfield for a touchdown, tying the game. 14-all to start the second half, it was pretty much anyone's game to take. Now, although we were able to score before halftime, you could still feel that the momentum was on Maryland's side. But of course, we didn't panic. We just stuck to our game plan, running a balanced offense and taking shots upfield, but only when it made sense. My boy KJ was having a hell of a game, and honestly, it started to look like he'd definitely be a first or second round pick this year. We had become a very dangerous 1-2 punch, so I was hoping my name got called with his come draft time. But look, we jumped out to a 7-point lead, but there was still a lot of time left on the clock. Like I always say, the game was still way too close to get comfortable. With about 2 minutes left in the third quarter, I'd take one of those shots downfield and connect it with my boy Sims up the sideline. On the very next play, wide open over the middle, I found my boy Nico for a touchdown, increasing our lead to 14 after the field goal. Look, we went on to beat this very tough Maryland team on the road by 10 points. In what would be my last game ever as a college athlete, we'd be back at home taking on our rivals, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, being that this was my last college game, it was only right that the weather was horrible and the temperatures were freezing. Even with all that though, the beautiful Iowa fans still showed up and were louder than ever. It was hard to believe I'd never wear that Iowa uniform again, or play in Kinnick Stadium again. The feeling was bittersweet. I mean, I was happy to graduate and go on to the pros, but damn man, that place had really become my second home. But look, there was still work that needed to be done. Not only was this a rivalry game, but the Big Ten championship was on the line, and it wasn't no way I was ending my college career losing to our rivals at home. Nah, it just wasn't happening. Yet again, we found ourselves in another shootout, but we all knew coming in that this one would be closely contested all the way to the end of the game. So trust me, we were well prepared for whatever the Cornhuskers threw at us. We jumped out to a 4-point lead and got possession of the ball back with just over a minute and a half left before halftime. By now, yeah, y'all should already know what I was on. I was looking to put another touchdown on the scoreboard before the end of the first half. I was able to work the ball downfield to right outside the red zone, and then on 3rd and 2nd, I felt like I could have easily ran for the first down, but already had my mindset on a touchdown, so I ended up overthrowing my receiver and the ball floated out of bounds, so we ended up just settling for the field goal. Nebraska started off the second half with the ball, but they weren't able to score, so we take over possession with the 4-point lead. Before taking the field, coach put us all into the huddle and told us a touchdown on this drive could quite possibly lead to us winning the game, so I had to go ahead to take open shots down the field. So that's exactly what I did, connecting with my wideout for a huge 30-yard gain. On 3rd and 4, I was scanning the field, looking for a target when the pocket would collapse, snaps, and unfortunately I take a sack. This would be yet another red zone error on my behalf, but we were still in pretty good shape as we settled for the field goal. On the final drive of my college football career, we had a 4-point lead and all we needed were 2 first downs to be able to run the clock out and secure the victory. Dropping back in the pocket with all my receivers covered up field, I'd scramble and pick up a huge first down, securing us the victory at home. We went on to not only win the game, but we also won the Big Ten Conference Championship. After all the late nights and early mornings, the 6 a.m. training sessions, the late night film sessions, the bumps and the bruises and the wins and the losses, the NFL draft came and for whatever the reason may have been, my name wasn't called. My agent said he talked to a few teams that may be interested in bringing me in as an undrafted free agent, or he said maybe we can even explore a few UFL options, but I don't know. For right now, man, I'm cool on everything. My goal since picking up a football was to get drafted. Now that didn't happen, I'm not even sure if I want to do this anymore. Of course, I could just be being dramatic since the whole situation is fresh, but who knows? I've been playing this game since I was a kid. Maybe it's time to hang up my cleats and go find a job or something.